Hey everybody, welcome back to When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast, where we fight depression with the power of music. I am your handicapped host, James Cox. And I have another great interview today. We're just kicking it with great interviews, and this one is it's no different because I met this gentleman through a mutual friend of mine, and we're going to talk about him too. But his name is David Ruff. He lives in Lexington, South Carolina. I don't think too far from me, but I'm not sure. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. Formerly, he lived in Memphis, Tennessee. And he was born there in 1962. He attended a small Christian church around graduation class of 12 people. Is that right? 12?
Yes, very small.
That is humongously small.
Yeah,
Because I think I had about 600 graduate in '99 with me. So
right.
anything under like 13 is considered very, very small, you know? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. He attended MSU, that's Memphis State University, got married in 1990, had a daughter. And did you get married the second time in 96?
No, my daughter was born in 96. We were
Yeah.
married in 90, daughter
Okay.
born in 96.
Okay, I can't read sometimes.
I understand.
Yeah, so you've been married for 30 years, right?
Yes, I was
All
married for
right.
30 years and got divorced about 6, 7 years ago.
All right. So Mr. David has been in a lot of bands. We're going to talk about each one of them, hopefully. And how you doing, David?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, good, good.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. So I am uh, wondering, my condolences for you having a headache.
Oh,
Headache and me do not get along, and I'm always figuring out how to get rid of them faster, you know. But I
yes.
have a prescription medication for them. You know, I go through a routine first, you know, to see if I can get rid of it on my own. What
Yes.
what do you do? And if you have a headache, do you what's your go to?
My go-to is Excedrin. Um, you
Okay,
know, I have a history with migraines when I was younger. I
okay,
don't really get them very often now, but as soon as I feel a headache coming on, I know that aspirin, Advil, Tylenol is just not going to do it. I need that boost with caffeine,
oh
so
yeah.
I go
Yeah.
straight to the Excedrin when I feel one coming
Right.
on.
Right. So I guess you have a lot of them going on the road and like going to different places with bands and everything, right?
Well, actually, no. I think there were two things that my headaches are associated with. One is sinuses, and so around the spring and fall, I usually have problems. Um, but in the past, I'd had, I think, maybe stress-oriented migraines,
Okay.
and that was more
Yeah.
when I was in middle school and high school. Kind of, I really don't know, but I'm not plagued with them like I used to be. They were frequent and very powerful early on when I was young, but later in life, I sort of grew out of those, but I still get the hay fever and headaches and things like that around spring and fall.
Right. Yeah. Because I am. The reason why I get them now is because I fell down the stairs one time years ago, and turns out that I have three skull fractures. So that's why I get them all the time now. I'm
My
not sure.
goodness.
I'm pretty sure that all of those three skull fractures healed, but I get them on occasion. You know. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So do you like use cold compresses and things like that, trying to cool
okay.
your head?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here's my go to. I take a hot shower, drink coffee, cold
Hmm.
press, like you said, and if all that fails, it's time for a one of those prescription medications. You know, I'm not sure
Right.
if it's I'm not sure if it's because I used to be I with oxycodone or something.
Right.
Yeah, but the
Yes,
doctor took me off that because he didn't want me to get too used to it. You know. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
All right. So, you play bass. I
Yes.
learned and now the drums. I thought you played the drums when we moved to talk, which is great, which is fine. But bass. So when did you fall in love with the bass? Because I know we talked about a couple of days before, and
Yeah.
you like bass since high school, right?
Well, my musical influences are kind of wide ranging, and I like a lot of different types of music. But my favorite types of music were ones with high energy, strong drums and bass.
Yeah.
That's always been my go-to. And so when I was young, I had a bass guitar and I would play around with it, but I never did anything. I never really tried to learn. And sometime after high school, uh, you know, there weren't a lot of soccer fields around Memphis in the 1970s and early 80s, but I hooked up with some guys right after high school and played a lot of recreational soccer, and we were very competitive. So I got into the soccer world, played against some former professionals and things like that, and so my early interests were being a weekend warrior in sports, and so I didn't pay much attention to music at that point. But around my mid 30s, when I was married and had my daughter, and we started, I started uh, going to a small church in the Memphis area, and that was about the time when churches were just instituting praise bands and praise music in worship services. And so we decided to do that in our church, and I volunteered to play the bass, not knowing how to play it.
Uh-huh.
And so I learned in front of 75 or 80 people every Sunday. That's how I learned to play bass. But I have always been very musically oriented, and it wasn't a difficult instrument to pick up. And the reason I don't really play guitar like a lot of bass players or
Mhm.
guitar players, former or frustrated guitar players, um, for me, I fell in love with the bass because I like keeping the bottom end. I like being responsible for the foundation of the music, and creating that certain feel that the music has. You've got a lot of people very talented, can play rhythm or lead guitar and play keyboard and things like that. But the foundation are the drums and the bass, and I really like being a part of that and creating the feel.
Right. Yeah, there's a constant joke between guitarists and bassists, I believe, because the guitarist says, "Hey man, the bass is the easiest thing to do.
Right.
I'm playing two more strings, and you're playing two less strings." So it's always like a banter between them, both. But I think it's all good.
It's a lot of fun,
Oh yeah,
especially when you're in a band where everybody respects and likes each other, and we play off each other and have fun. And you create that energy or that feeling. If it's in a church, you try to create that worship feeling. And you know, when you're playing in front of people, um, if the band is having fun and enjoying playing the music, and the crowd is enjoying your music, it becomes symbiotic, and it really, you feed off each other, and
yeah,
it's the greatest feeling in the world.
yeah. So, what is your favorite? Oh, who? Okay, so who is your favorite bassist of all time? I got one, but I don't know if you share the same sentiment. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and first. And
Oh, there are so many.
yeah, there's too
The
many. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, probably the one that impressed me the most when I was young was Geddy Lee of Rush.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
he's amazing. He holds down two instruments and sings lead vocals
Mm.
all at the same time. It's pretty amazing to watch. I've seen him live. Um, John Entwistle of the Who was really a great one. There are just so many.
Yeah,
Um, uh, but I think as far as having an unusual or a really kind of outlandish technique, Flea is a really good one too. I love he innovated bass playing in
right.
music. I think, yeah.
Yeah, and he's so fun to watch because I can't imagine jumping around and doing all the cartwheels and so you still play bass with you. I was like, oh my god, that guy's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, but have you heard of Victor Wooten?
Oh yes,
Oh my
I,
God,
I watched
he is my favorite bassist of all time.
I
Yes.
watch videos of him and just
Oh my
I'm just
God.
amazed.
Yeah.
And what I like about him is um, he's the perfect example of a bass player that doesn't take himself too seriously,
No.
and
Yeah.
he's really good. He knows it's not just knowing how to play the instrument. You have different kind of bass players that just hold the root notes and just kind of keep the foundation down and not do anything. And then you have bass players that want to run up and down the neck and pretend that they're a lead guitar player,
Yeah.
and that ruins the feel of the song, I believe. And so I try to stay in the pocket, branch out once in a while. Sometimes I play in a three-piece band, which you have to have an excellent guitar player, and then when the guitar goes into a lead, the bass player has to pick up and be much more active and much more assertive. And so you try to stay in the pocket for the most part, and then you try to branch out at those appropriate times and put the runs and the flares in. But for the most
Right.
part, I just like creating that strong feel.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Um, so I'm reading your bio and it's excellent. So I gotta ask you this: do you
Okay.
like 70s music more or 80s music? Because I see you like them both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I grew up on '70s music, but
Okay.
I was in my 20s in
Yeah.
the '80s,
Okay.
and so the '80s was probably my favorite decade. Um,
Yes.
as a matter of fact, in the
Mine too.
early yeah,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, in the early '80s, I briefly I got into the techno pop thing, and I would go to clubs wearing my parachute pants and referee striped shirt, that kind of stuff, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but for the most part, I've always been more into rock music,
Right.
and you know, I was never a big heavy metal fan,
Yeah, that's what
even.
I was. Yeah, because when we were talking before, you said you didn't like hair bands like Motley Crue or Kiss or any of those big hair metal bands. You stick to like Rush, Styx, Kansas, AC/DC, stuff like that. Which is great.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all great.
Yeah, I like heavy music. I like a variety of styles within a certain band or a certain album or whatever, you know, instead of just like every song sounding the same on an album.
Right.
I like uh, uh, the bands probably influenced me the most were Kansas, Styx, Foreigner, Led Zeppelin.
Foreigner is great. Yeah.
I think my first album I ever bought was Foghat Live.
Ooh,
Um,
good
yeah,
album. Yeah.
that was a fun one. I
Yeah.
had a neighbor when I was a kid in the '70s, and he was about nothing but Kiss, so it was all
Yes.
Kiss, you know.
Yes.
So, but I really enjoy listening to music where there's musicianship. That you know, there's a lot of technical um, aspects to each song. And back in the '70s, we used to like to put our headphones on and listen to a whole album.
Mm.
Today, if a song is more than 3 minutes, people turn it off. You know,
Yeah.
it's a different world. But you could get lost for 45 minutes or an hour in an album. Put your headphones on and just get lost in it. And I liked music, but you know, high energy, Van Halen, stuff like that. So that was my favorite. The hair bands were just a little bit too cookie cutter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the majority of hair bands just wanted to get with women. I don't think they really wanted to take music seriously.
Right, right,
It's all about women and girls because Motley Crue had an album called Girls, Girls, Girls. So you know
right.
what that band was fully about. I don't think well, they released some great music, but I don't think that was their main goal. Yeah.
Well, you know that Van Halen would pay their stage hands to go find women for them. They would
Yes.
pay them extra bonuses to find women for them. Yeah,
Van Halen and I think Poison did that too with Bret Michaels.
yeah,
My God, yeah, because I really like the '80s as well, but I think that a lot of bands now uh, take from the '80s and '90s and '70s, prior to, you know,
yes,
and I just think that makes the better music for us now. I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
What you
there's
think?
nothing new under the sun.
No,
And,
no, right?
and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so all musicians kind of borrow from other musicians, or pieces and parts and things like that.
yeah,
Um, but the '80s, people uh, used to really kind of put down '80s music because they look at a certain genre and they think that defines the '80s. But the '80s was wide open. You had bands like Journey existing at the same time as the Flock of Seagulls,
yeah,
so you really had a wide variety of music in the '80s.
yeah. So in the '90s, though, '90s has some great music too, and that's when you first started playing music. Because on
Yeah.
anybody else says I started playing music late in life in the '30s, I
Yes.
don't think that's really late. I think that's a good age. But then it says you started playing for a small church, right?
Yes.
So was your first uh band, I guess, your band with the church, or did you start like a band before?
No, the first time I played in front of people with actual band was at church, in church
Okay.
services on Sunday mornings, Sunday evenings,
Yeah.
and we had a wide variety of praise and worship music, that would go from high energy to high worship and that kind of thing. And then the we had a Christian band um, called Eyewitness.
Oh, nice.
Eyewitness,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so that was kind of fun. We did some classic rock songs, and we might change the lyrics a little bit to make them kind of Christian or whatever,
Yeah.
and we play some more contemporary Christian music that the stuff that you wouldn't normally play in the church service, where
Right.
your intent is to worship. With the band, our intent was to worship, but also have fun and play music. So it was a good mix. Then uh, I was focused on coaching my daughter's soccer team. I had a job where I traveled and that kind of thing. So I didn't get much chance to pursue playing music anywhere else but church
Okay.
for the most part.
Right.
And I moved to South Carolina. My daughter was in the fifth grade at that point, and so uh, I stuck to coaching soccer, being around my family as much as possible. Uh, Excuse me, sorry about
But
that.
no, no,
I've
yeah,
got
it's fine, it's fine.
it's Sean actually. So
Hi, Sean. Yeah.
so anyway, I got involved when I moved out here. I got immediately involved in my church's praise band, which led to playing in the choir and orchestra, and uh, celebrate recovery, which we can talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's how I got to that point. But I didn't reach the point where I wanted to play in clubs or restaurants or anything like that until after the divorce. My daughter was ready to leave home and get married and that kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
when I started branching out and doing that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this before we get into the recovery story. Um, so you said you were moving around everywhere, and you didn't have time for like actual band, right? So that's why you played in church. So knowing that, if you did have to move around and do all the stuff you just said, do you think you would be playing like rock music or strictly like Christian or like a praise band now full
No,
time?
well, just to clarify, that's not why I play in church. I play in
Okay.
church because
Well,
of
yeah,
my
yeah,
faith, and
yeah,
because that
yeah.
I it's part of my service
Right,
uh,
right.
to the Lord and to His people and that kind of thing. That's my area of service.
Yeah.
But I would my first priority has always been family,
Mm,
God and family,
yeah.
and and the music came separately or came second.
Right.
And but as far as playing music, I would prefer to play for uh, the church and play for those types of um, uh, purposes before I put that before playing out and having the kind of fun, that comes along with playing
Mm.
contemporary music. I value all of it, and I've had a lot of fun doing all of it. But if I had to give one up, I would give up playing outside and just stick to the church.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
it depends on what you have time for. Life changes. We kind of live life in seasons,
Yeah.
and I've had for quite a while now a season in my life where I've been able to do both, and I've really enjoyed that. But like I said, I put priority on playing for the Christian community.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Because my my mom's church has a Christian band, and they're really really good. And it amazes me how like you won't did we like it amazes me like sometimes you don't expect it to sound that good, but it does,
Right?
especially in church,
Yes.
because when you think about church, you think about hymns, reading out of a book, back when church was more like not music
More
oriented.
traditional.
Well, yes, yes, I do. Yeah, so
Yes.
I really like listening to the band play now in church. It's really, and it gets people really is inspired to listen to the testimony that the preacher has in store. Yeah, but okay, now let's talk about your Celebrate Recovery band. Uh,
Yes.
Yes. So you said you are the only original member from 16 years ago, so does that mean you created this band 16 years ago?
No, I didn't create it.
Oh, okay.
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 So the way it came about was really, really great because 16, 17 years ago, well, actually closer to 20 years ago, was when Celebrate Recovery was becoming a thing. And that's when we brought the meetings in at our church. And I wasn't there, I was still in Memphis at the time. When I moved here, I immediately started playing with the praise band in our Sunday services. But it was about a year or two later that one of our guitar player in our band had been going to the Celebrate Recovery meetings, and he had formerly been a professional musician. He played lead guitar, rhythm guitar. He's played bass. He's done it all, and wonderful guy, wonderful musician. And he said that somebody at their meetings, they only had about 15 to 20 people at their meetings each week on a Tuesday evening. And so someone at that meeting said, um, I really want to play music for these people, but he wasn't a musician, didn't know how to do it. He went and learned to play the guitar just so he could play a
Nice.
song
Yeah.
for the meeting. And this gentleman said, I was a professional musician. I've been going to these meetings all this time, and I've never even thought about it,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
he got convicted. So he asked the drummer that we just happened to be rehearsing for a Sunday on that Tuesday, and he asked us at rehearsal. He said, "Would you, the drummer and myself?" He said, "Would you guys mind going over there with me, and we just play some music at these people? We'll just pick three songs and play it and let them sing." And I said, "Yeah, sure." And so that was the beginning of the band. We put that band together with the three of us. Then we brought someone else in that played guitar and sang, and then we brought several other people. We've had many different versions of this band with people coming in and out. I had a flute player for a while. We just different things. And so uh, over time, it developed, and generally it's a 5 or 6 piece band, and we just get together on Tuesdays. We show up at 6. We run through 3 songs. At 6:45, we play 3 songs for them before they start their meeting. And they
Mhm.
start their meeting at 7, and we pack up and head out. But uh, I've never experienced anything more rewarding. I've
Yeah.
never seen people more appreciative of having music and acknowledging the power of music than I have at the Celebrate Recovery meetings.
Yeah. So I'm sure this happened, but I just want to get it from you. Do you have any favorite stories of when somebody hears your music and then after the fact they came to you and said, "Oh my God, that really hooked me up," you know? Have you
A
had any?
lot,
Yes. Okay. Okay.
a
So
lot.
can you tell us a few of them or?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
over the years, uh, the you can tell by the response that you get from people when you're playing, and
Yeah.
with the different configurations of the band over the years, you know, we've thrown it together in this little bitty room, with no real sound gear, all the way to playing in the sanctuary with all the high tech equipment and everything, and that just doesn't matter to people. What
No.
matters is that we're there and we're doing this for them, and it doesn't matter if we're good or bad or what,
Or
they enjoy it.
hopefully you're
But
good all the time. You know, it's like,
yeah, but
yeah,
I've had people come up to me and say that it's changed their life. Music reaches a part of a person's soul
yes.
that you can't do with any other form of communication. It reaches deep within you sometimes, especially when you're going through certain emotions or certain phases in life, the
Yeah.
way things affect you. Music can really speak to you.
Yes.
Uh, so I experienced that early in my life before I played music. The reason I liked the bands that I did was because of the meanings that they would put into the songs. The one song that stands out to me is Styx, "Angry Young Man, Fooling Yourself." Talks about a young guy that's trying to find himself, and why must you be such an angry young man? Your future looks quite bright to me.
Right.
So that just good lessons to learn. Um, the song "Trees" by Rush was about racism and envy and people getting along, things like that. That spoke to me back in the '70s. Kansas put a lot of Christian themes in their music without telling anybody that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and and I responded to it. I didn't know why until much later on when I went back. I was much older and I went back and listened to some of the songs and I was like, wow, these songs are really, really kind of doctrinally sound, even though it was never labeled as Christian music. So those are the kinds of influences that I had. And I think everybody, when they're going through difficult times in life,
Hmm.
music is something that helps them through.
Yeah, yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that. You know, that's why we made this podcast, because I feel like if people had an opportunity to listen to our show, no matter how long the episode is, they could get some kind of comfort, listening to us and talking about music, maybe inspiring them to listen to that song or album, and and that'll make your life a little bit better, So yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm sure you got a lot of more good stories like how you help people just by playing music,
yeah. You know, People respond differently
Yeah.
to certain environments and certain. I've been out playing in a club or whatever, and have a lot of people come up and say, "Man, you guys are awesome." I've just had the most fun tonight, that kind of thing, and it's great to help people have fun. Um, but it's even that much more rewarding when somebody tells you, it doesn't even have to be playing in church, but
Right.
when somebody tells you that you've affected them spiritually or
Yeah.
mentally or emotionally, uh, helped by that, by just I'm getting up there and I'm having fun and I'm doing my thing,
Yeah.
and you don't really realize what is happening with the next person until they actually tell you.
Exactly. And just think about how many people you've helped that did not tell you at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you might have saved a lot of lives that night, or if they come in church listening to you play. I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, music heals everything, I think. But
Yeah.
okay, so let's talk about this. So you told me, or Sean told me that you are friends with Sonny Jim
Right.
Sunfield of Hootie and the Blowfish, and
Yes.
you met him through the celebratory recovery meetings, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I would say about close to 10 years ago was the first time I met him. He was a lot of people already know this, but he was the reason that the band broke up originally, and he was having difficulty with substance abuse, and so he backed out and he got his life straight, and he uh, reached the point where he wanted to serve God with his music. So he started making his own music, Christian music, and his area of service or area of the area that he wanted to cover was the recovery. I won't use celebrate recovery because he does it everywhere, but um, recovery and getting over those hurts, habits, and hangups
Yeah.
was his ministry and his purpose. And
Yeah.
so he came and spoke at our Celebrate Recovery meetings, and we wanted to have him do some music. So our band backed him up to play his music,
Nice.
and he called us his blowfish, and that was really cool. And so we did that close to 10 years ago, and then I'd say about 5 or 6 years ago, he came back and did it a second time, and we backed him up, and it was great. I established a pretty good rapport with him. But a couple of years ago, we decided to take our yearly celebration out of our church sanctuary and take it to the Ice House Amphitheater.
Mm-hmm.
And so that first year that we did that, we had Jim Sonnenfeld with us, and I wound up producing the show. And in that function, I was able to establish a real relationship with Jim, and started.
Yeah.
We went out to lunch and uh, discussed particulars about the show and how things would go. And I just loved his attitude. It was he said, I don't want this night to be about me.
Yes.
What I want to do is I want to tell my story, but I don't want to just like be a headliner of the show. He says I'd rather come out and jam with on praise and worship music with you guys.
Yeah.
I said okay. So
Well,
we had about three bands before us, two or three bands before us, and then our Celebrate Recovery band. We call ourselves the Recovery Room Band, and so we got out and played about 30 minutes, and then introduced Jim and had him come out, and he joined us for an hour. And during that hour, we played some contemporary music, cover tune, that kind of things. And then he got up and spoke, and we played some of his original music, and played a couple of Hootie tunes, and just had a big night of it. And so since then, I uh, uh, had kind of kept a friendship with Jim.
yeah.
And before this latest tour started, um, we got in touch, and he said that he would give me a backstage experience at the Hootie show. And
Yes.
so that Friday evening, the second show here in Columbia, I took our mutual
Sean.
friend
Yeah.
Sean, and we went out there, and it was just a great experience. We were backstage when all the pictures were being taken. All of the VIPs came backstage and had pictures taken. And as soon as we had our picture taken, he said, "Stand back over here and wait." And I said,
Yeah.
"Okay." So
Yeah.
Sean and I were standing there, and they finished up, and then we walked through the back halls of the arena with Jim, and he's saying, "This is we have 14 trucks and this and that and the other," and he was telling
Yeah.
us all this stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And walked up to the access point to the stage, and Collective Soul was running off the stage, and they were all hyped up, and we met them. And
Yeah.
it was just a fun time. It was great. We hung outside stage, and listened to the show, and it was just it was a great experience.
Yeah. It's funny because we talked about Click This Over last time we talked, and you and me are still laughing about it about some kind of suits that Ed wears. He wears like amazing horrendous suits, but they're so funny. They're so fun to look at too.
And he's got the hair.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm so glad he was awesome to you. Yeah. Um.
Yeah.
So do you talk to anybody else in Hootie the Blowfish, like Mark or Darius, or do you have any other
No,
report
I don't have any
rapport
real
with them?
stories
Okay.
other than the fact that I met Darius the first time that
Yeah.
Friday night at the show,
Okay.
and I had to ask him because he and I are both Miami Dolphin fans,
Yes. Yeah.
which is like the hardest fandom to be involved in. It's just it's terrible. But
Right.
so I asked him, how he got started being a Miami fan, and of course he's had Dan Marino in their video and all of that stuff. But I was in 1972. I was 10 years old, and my dad wasn't really a sports guy, so I didn't grow up watching sports. But I discovered football on TV when I was 10, and we didn't have any sports or football teams close to Memphis.
Right.
So I saw Miami kept winning, and I was like, okay, well, I like this team. I like Dolphins. That's pretty cool. So I started watching the Dolphins play that year, and that was the year that they went undefeated, the only team that ever go undefeated. And so I latched on to the Dolphins in '72, and I've been a fan ever since, which is hard.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think my dad really liked the Redskins way back in the 90s and such, but for some reason they always lost it. Like, oh, I'm done with it. So then yeah, so then after he moved to Carolina, he's always been the Panther guy. But I'm not sure
Okay.
if he still watches pro football because he loves the Braves baseball. He's a Braves fan at heart. So um,
Okay.
and so you probably talked with Mark Bryan, the guitarist of Hootie the Blowfish, and I will tell you a funny story about him.
Okay.
I met him years ago when I was going to a specific club. We won't get into it, right? It's stupid. I was 20, I was
Right.
stupid, and I didn't know
I
any
get
better. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, but before we went to that club, we went to Carolina LL's, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure if it was the one in Columbia or the one in Lexington. But me and my friend were sitting in the corner. And I looked over there. I'm like, I think that's that's the guitarist for Who Did Blowfish. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm the only person that knows it because my friend
Right.
doesn't listen to that kind of music. And sure enough, it was, and I'm like, hey, Mark, how you doing, dude? And he's like, yeah, he could not be nicer than me. So I'm Mark,
Right.
he knows me, but yeah, he gave me $20 to take to the club, and he's like, have a good time. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, because who
That's
else
cool.
could say that a musician, gave someone money. And yeah, but
That's cool.
it's cool. So, yeah, so I want him back up. I want to talk to him, because it's been a while, and I'm always grateful to meet him. Especially if
Yeah.
you look up to somebody that that stature. So
Yeah.
I always try not to look up to musicians, because you've always heard the story. Don't meet your heroes.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
but my dad's always been mine, and because he's a retired colonel, and
Yes.
so I mean it's always gonna be my dad. I'm always gonna hold him to the highest regards, no matter what.
Right.
But yeah, so Mark couldn't have been nicer to me. I'm not sure how of a good relationship you would have with him, but he seems like a really cool, chill, down to earth guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Was he barefooted?
No, no, no. He was dressed to the T. He had a suit on. He had, so yeah, it was awesome.
Every time I've ever seen him, he's been barefooted.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, he's a great guy.
yeah.
Most of them are down to earth. And then I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but you ever seen the show Daryl's House?
No, no, sir.
Okay. You remember Daryl Hall, John
Yes,
Oates,
yes, yes,
Hall and Oates? All right.
yeah.
Daryl Hall has a TV show where he brings rock legends or country legends or whatever. He'll bring them into his house. He's got this country house that he put together from recycled building materials. Moved a house here and added to it with old. Everything's old and like turn of the century kind of atmosphere inside and out. And so he built this big place and big studio, and he brings those people in with his band, and they talk about how they created the song, and then they'll sing the song or whatever. But if I'm not mistaken, the only time he's ever gone on location to do that show was at Darius's house in Charleston.
So yeah,
and,
yep,
and so
yeah.
that was really cool. I saw that show. I've only met Darius and the rest of the band that one time. The only one I really know is Sonny.
Right, yeah, because it's funny because all like I met not like 95% of the time when I meet musicians, I meet them, outside of the House of Blues or outside the back after the show.
Yeah,
But that 1% was Mark out in the wild. I was like, holy crap. And it's so fun recognize him, because he never would have thought that somebody would be where
right.
you go. So yeah, so awesome, awesome.
The most famous person I ever met, just kind of out and about
Yeah.
like that, was 1978. I was waiting to get into the ballroom at a hotel in Memphis on the Mississippi River. I was waiting to get into a ballroom for my junior prom, and in the bar next to in the lobby bar in that hotel, I looked up and there was a guy sitting alone at the bar, and I kept looking at him. I was thinking, I know that guy, and
Right.
it turned out to be Bruce Jenner. He had just won all those gold medals in
Yeah.
'76, and he was still doing his like publicity tour in 1978. And he
Yeah.
was in Memphis in that bar, and I went up and shook his hand. That's the most famous person I
Nice.
ever
Hell
met.
yeah. Yeah, it's always a fun time when you see something like that. You're like, I know him, and then your brain starts thinking about, if you actually met him before. That's awesome.
Right.
Um, okay, so your first band ever was called the Rhythm Benders, a variety band playing rock,
That's right.
country, blues, R&B. Okay, so I don't I can't remember. Are you a country fan or no?
No,
No, okay.
I, I, I,
But the band covered country songs, correct?
yeah, we did a
Okay,
few country songs. We did a two or three kind of contemporary country, and we did two or three old school country.
okay.
But that was mixed in with a lot of rock and a lot of R&B and some blues, and it was a good variety, a good mix of genres.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, rock and country are like one and the same because if it wasn't for country, there would be no rock. But if it wasn't for jazz, there would be no country. I've been told. So I mean, this is all speculative.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
I have a good lineage story for
Yes.
you. Growing up in Memphis, it was music town.
Yeah.
Okay. Before Nashville was strictly country back in those days. It was, Nashville is very cosmopolitan these days, and there's all types of music. But the people that went to Nashville back in the '70s, '60s, '70s, actually starting from the '50s up to the '70s and the '80s, they went there strictly to record and play country music.
Yeah.
So Memphis was the place where rock and roll was kind of born. It was really a big snub when they put the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's one DJ that coined the term rock and roll on the air. That's the justification for putting it in Cleveland instead of Memphis, where it was actually born.
Yeah.
So what happened is uh, the Delta in Mississippi, which is northwestern Mississippi,
Yeah.
um, the Delta is lowland. You're up on a bluff in Memphis, and when you drive south out of Memphis, across the state line, you go down, and you're just driving flat land. That used to flood before they put the levees up on the Mississippi River, and
Right.
so all of these uh, uh, sharecropper kind of farm workers would play uh, music that was a mixture of uh, uh, they created the blues from a lot of African folk songs and influences from Louisiana and places like that. And they created this music, this genre, and people like Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters and Sleepy John Estes,
Yeah.
uh, Buddy Guy, all of those old blues artists would play up and down Highway 61, which went from like Clarksdale, Mississippi, up to Memphis, then St. Louis, and then Chicago.
Right.
So the blues went up the river through Memphis and through St. Louis to Chicago, where it mixed with jazz,
Yeah.
and so that was there was a kind of a spreading of the different types of music that kind of came together in the central United States. And growing up in Memphis, blues and barbecue were the two big
Yes.
things,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
get the best barbecue ribs in the whole world in Memphis, and you get the best blues in the whole world in Memphis.
Yeah.
So it became very popular for a while. But during all that time, and especially in the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of the what we know now as the original country stars that from Nashville. They were in Memphis early on and recording at Sun Studio with Elvis, trying to play rock and roll music. People like Conway Twitty and Johnny Cash, all of those country stars that you remember. You think of country music when you think of them. They were trying to make it in rock and roll. Elvis is the one that jumped to the top of the pack, and all those other guys went to Nashville and started playing country because it was taking off at that time.
Right.
So, but what was developed in the Delta in Mississippi and came up through Memphis kind of culminated with Elvis and his popularity. And that sort of created the rock and roll thing.
Yeah.
And just to kind of close the circle, um, the people like Rolling Stones band members, Beatles band members, all of those, the Kinks, and all of those uh, rock bands from Britain, they would wait for the sailors to come into port, and they would bring them blues music, 45 records
Yeah.
from Memphis and surrounding areas. They would bring blues music to them, and that's how they developed the rock and roll that they played. And then came the British invasion and brought rock and roll back to the United States, and that's when it really blew up. Is the British invasion. So it's one big circle, and it all started in the Mississippi Delta.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you if it's the Delta or Tennessee, because I know you're from Memphis, and my
Yes.
mom was born in Clarksville, Mississippi, and a lot
Wow.
of people will say that Clarksville started the blues only because of that story with the crossroads. You know,
Robert
I guess
Johnson.
yes, I guess that's where the well we got the blues because of Robert Johnson. I guess that's where it all started from. But back then, I don't think anybody knows because back then we didn't have the internet or anything today like we can today. We can get information right away now. But back then, I think it was vastly different, because it
Yes.
could have started in both, right? I mean, is that the way you perceive it, or did you think that one started at first?
I I, I have to say that the blues really kind of kicked it all off because
Yeah.
before that, growing up in the 70s, my mother listened to country music, but she liked the crooners like Ed Ames and Charlie Rich, Charlie Pride, those kind of singers. That's what she liked. And my dad liked classical music. And of course, we had the 70s rock and roll. You had the 50s rockabilly and 60s um, rebellious music. And you had the 70s rock and roll, and you had the 80s techno pop. All that evolution, I'd have to say, all of that owes its roots to the blues.
Yeah.
And I think, jazz was around a lot longer than
Yeah,
the blues.
jazz started it all. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so uh, and that my only experience with jazz, I'm not a big jazz fan because I don't understand it, but
Right.
my influence with jazz comes from the Bayou of Louisiana, because we share Memphis, Mississippi, and down to the Louisiana Gulf Coast, the
Yeah.
Mississippi Gulf Coast. All of that um, has a real French influence, has a real jazz influence, and I believe that came up and mixed with the blues as
Mm.
well. So it's all kind of homogenous. You can't just say one started, then the other started.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Everything kind of mixed together, and then it's like cream rising to the top.
Yeah.
Whatever people really responded to is what had lasting power.
Yeah. I, with me, I think those are the most fun things to discuss. Whether this and this. Because a lot of people say that what was it, Neil Peart or John Bonham, which is better? It doesn't matter, but
Two
it's like,
totally different things.
you're right. But it's
Yep.
fun to discuss, and hey, this guy's
Yes.
if you get this, it's always so Delta or Tennessee always fun to discuss.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can do me a favor, I want to tell my audience how you once held Lucille, and for
Oh
anyone
yeah.
who don't know who Lucille is, shame on you because it's BB King's guitar. So
BB King's
if you
guitar.
will enlighten us with your amazing story.
Okay, so I'm a graphics provider. I do graphic design. I do interior design with a focus on branding. That's kind of my um, career path. And so I had a business in Memphis, and I wound up doing a lot of work in the casinos in Tunica when they started building them. They built 9 casino properties, and I'd worked in about 6 of them, 6 or 7 of them, uh, including Harris, Bally's, Horseshoe, Gold Strike, things like that. So the Horseshoe Casino was by far the best casino in that area. And keep in mind, at this time, uh, the the Tunica casino market had eclipsed Atlantic City. So Vegas and then Tunica were the 2 biggest casino markets at that time. And the Horseshoe Casino decided to put in a Bluesville nightclub, and get a lot of different blues and rock artists to come in and play it. And then they developed a Blues and Legends Hall of Fame museum. And I had the pleasure of doing all the graphics in that museum. And I worked closely with the curator and the person that owned most of the exhibits. And we designed this place. And I was in it day and night with all these different instruments sitting around. You had Bo Diddley's box guitar, you had Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar, you had um, uh, Louis Armstrong was represented there. Um, Robert Johnson. I saw his guitar and everything, but something caught my eye sitting on the floor, and I looked at
Oh,
it, and it said Lucille, and I went, "What?" And
what
and
is that? Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I said, "Do you mind?" He goes, "Go ahead." So I picked it up, and
Oh my
I
God.
held Lucille. It was really cool experience. And another cool thing is, um, we were creating the bio for the one artist, very important artist, and it's a big lengthy bio.
Mm.
And the curator said, "Okay, so what is your opinion? Should we put his well-known name at the top as a header, or should we put his real name? And I said, yeah, you should put his real name and let people read a couple of lines in to find out who the guy really is, you
Yeah.
know? But the cool story about this was uh, it was Muddy Waters, but the name that we put on the header was McKinley Morganfield, which
Because
was
that
his
was
real name.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but the display item in the case was the Muddy Wood guitar. And
Mhm.
the reason it's called the Muddy Wood guitar was there were two guitars made. Um, what's his name? Drawing a blank. Billy Gibbons of
Yeah.
ZZ Top
Yep. Yep.
heard that they were going to tear down Muddy Waters' cabin in Clarksdale, Mississippi. So he rushed from Texas to Clarksdale and snuck in and grabbed the mantle off the fireplace
Hmm.
and took that wood and made two guitars out of it. And
Good.
one of them hung there in the case.
Yeah.
But that was kind of cool. We kind of faked some people out with McKinley Morganfield. Who is
Yeah.
that? You know?
Right. Yeah. I'm amazed that they didn't reach out to any artists and do what they wanted to sell that house, that he was in. I don't know. Maybe it was
I,
all renowned. I don't know.
I don't know. People do funny things. They, especially
Yeah.
government officials, they say, just do it.
Yeah. 'Cause they don't care
They
about
don't
music.
realize the
Yeah.
significance.
Yeah. Or about music. I don't think they enjoy music,
Right.
All I like to believe is they like taking our money. That's all. That's
Yeah,
what they're good for. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
do that.
They do that really well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned an artist, and I want to talk about him for a few minutes if you got time.
Mhm.
You mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan, right?
Yes.
Well, I mean, what a guitarist. What is your favorite album and song from him? Because he's got a
Uh,
lot of great ones. So
yeah, exactly.
like too many to choose from. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's hard to remember back which song
Yeah.
came from which album, but gosh, I love um, uh, Voodoo Child.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, gosh, what was the one? As soon as you ask me about it, I'll do a
Yeah,
blank.
yeah, oh, yeah. My
Um,
favorite song is like
Superstition.
Superstition. We
The-
did we did a cover wars for that song for anybody who wants to hear it. And we did that Halloween cover wars.
yeah,
And we did that song with Raven Simone, and I think and we did Steve Ray Vaughan's version.
yeah, and
Because
I
Superstition was
love.
written by Stevie Wonder. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love Stevie Wonder's version
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
That man was a genius, and the syncopated bass line and the rhythms, complex rhythms in that
Mm,
song are
yeah,
just amazing. But to watch Stevie Ray Vaughan do all of that on one guitar
yeah.
was just phenomenal. It's just something. When I first heard that song, um, but then he also did some Jimi Hendrix songs, Watchtower and different
Yes.
songs like that. Gosh, he's just got so much good music, and it was such a tragedy when he died because
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was on his game.
Hmm.
He was in the
Yeah.
middle of his brand exploding.
Right. And I'm not sure. Okay, so this is a hard choice for me because, I mean, Voodoo Child, you can't go wrong with that, by Hendrix. But I
Yeah,
think that Stevie Ray Vaughan is right up there with him if it's not next to it. I don't want to say it's better. I don't want to say it's worse. I just want to say it's Stevie's version, and that version is good enough
yeah,
for me, I guess.
yeah.
Because many versions is like a yes or no. Stevie's is right there with you, like, yes, that's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so hearing that, which version do you prefer, or do you like them both? Like,
I like
how do
them.
you?
I like them both. I could sit and listen to both of them back to back and
Yeah,
appreciate both of them.
right.
Uh, I am. It's a really hard choice because Stevie Ray's guitar and the whole
The
energy and the
strength,
vibe of
yeah,
it
yeah,
is awesome. But I really love those bass and those complex rhythm that Stevie Wonder did. So that's probably the
yeah.
hardest one to choose. If
Right.
you put two
Yeah.
songs together, that's probably the most
That's
difficult
it.
choice.
And I don't think, yeah, I mean, I can't think of any better cover version than Stevie Ray Vaughan's Voodoo Child. Um,
I always had an idea, and never really got to do this in any of the bands that I've been in, but I've always had this idea I'd like to do one day. Um, I don't know if you remember or not, but the Guess Who came out with the song American Woman.
yes,
Okay.
American
And then,
Woman. Right? Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then
yeah.
Lenny Kravitz did
Yep,
a remake of it, which
yep.
is really, really good, And I
Really
prefer
good.
the Lenny Kravitz version, but I've always wanted to maybe start out a set with this and this arrangement. Uh, get up and start playing the Guess Who version, the
Yeah,
intro and the first verse and the first chorus of the Guess Who version, which is damn 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 damn. It's really guitar kind of
really twangy. Yeah,
60s twangy. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And play that version and up to the end of the first chorus, and then just stop dead, and then jump in hard and heavy with Lenny Kravitz, bom, 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 that real big and beefy sound,
Yeah.
But I thought that would be a real crowd pleaser, just to start out with one and everybody will recognize it, and then jump into the other one, and it's all the same song.
Right. I think I I honestly think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I yeah.
it
That's
would be
all.
really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So, two more things I want to talk about before we let you go.
Okay,
I can't decide which one. Okay, so let's do this. Since,
okay.
since we're talking about bands, you are or were in a band called Carol Lane, right? And the only,
Yeah,
and the only reason why I said you were is because I was on your Facebook today, and I see that your drummer has left Carol Lane and taking the name with him. So you now
yep.
play for the Palmetto Sun Band. Can you tell
Yeah,
me
it's
about it?
really,
Yeah.
really strange way this kind of happened,
Okay.
but
And this just happened like 3 days ago, right? 2 days ago.
yes,
Yeah.
it just happened this week. Okay.
Okay.
And so, Tara Lane started about they started before me, but I joined them about 3 years ago. And the first year we are a three-piece band: bass, drums, and guitar. And we have two lead singers that don't play instruments. One's male and one's female. The male lead singer was strong with 90s grunge kind
Yeah.
of sound, but did 80s music really well and that kind of thing. And the female lead singer just has pipes like you wouldn't
A
believe.
beautiful
Just
voice. Yeah.
sing anything.
Yeah.
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 And so, and she was kind of came from a different genre, and so we had to get her to really, get her voice out there and make it hard and grungy or whatever. We had to kind of help her develop that. But
Mhm.
she could sing country songs and pop songs all day long. But now she's a rock singer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So anyway, when she joined the band about 2 years ago, that first year, which was last year, we took off. We went from we were playing almost every weekend. We went from 300 followers on Facebook to 1,600. It just exploded. And then
Yeah.
this year, I should say, early on, it kind of slowed down. We didn't have as many gigs lined up, and we had some people that were struggling with illness and things like that. And so it kind of floundered this year,
Mhm.
and really wasn't getting much activity. So someone offered for me to join Palmetto Sun Band,
Yeah.
and so I wasn't sure if I wanted to, and I finally, after a few days thinking about it, said, "Well, I'm not really doing much. I could do both at this rate. I could play in both bands,
Yeah.
as little as Tara Lane is doing anything. Maybe Tara Lane will do something next year, but." I think people were kind of, I don't know what was going on. So
Yeah.
anyway, fast forward to day before yesterday, I get a text from the drummer who says, he's retiring from his job. He's going to be moving to Tennessee and take care of his mom in her later years and that kind of thing, which is very good thing to do, very
Yes.
noble. And
Yes.
so, but he sort of the band name and the identity of the band came from him, and so he was going to take that with him. Didn't really want the band to continue as it was, and I said, okay, well, I guess I made the right decision
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
days ago to join this other band. But um, I'm really sad to see that because Tara Lane has uh, immense amounts of talent, and
Yes. Oh my
we
God.
all played together very well. We had fun playing together, which translated into the people that listen to us having fun. We
Yeah.
played shows. We played in the restaurant or club where at the end of the night there are probably 6 or 8 people out there listening to us, and we played shows with 3,000 people, and
Yeah.
had we played the Mardi Gras Festival a couple years ago in Aiken, and it was 29 degrees, and we had well over 1,000 people stay until 9 o'clock until we finished. So I mean, we played in Virginia for a fireworks festival and Fourth of July, that kind of thing. So it was really a good time, and I love those guys and girl, and we just it was just a special time, but I'm guessing it's over. So
Yeah. All
yeah,
good things must come to an end, I guess,
yeah,
the saying goes. But
yeah,
yeah, because when you sent me the videos, I think it was last night. Yeah, last night. I watched one and y'all play Creed. Creed. I love Creed. And that's the
yeah.
best band I think in a long time. And I will fight on the hill, fist up in the air to tell me anything's better than Creed because I love Creed, and I
Yeah,
think hundreds to two, they just had a bad rap for years, so yeah.
yeah,
So, and
yeah.
I imagine you'll start playing with this Palmetto Sunman real soon, or
It's a brand new band.
okay,
We're just putting the music together now,
okay,
so it'll probably be early next year before we really get out and start doing anything.
okay. So is this going to be all original stuff, or is this going to be like
It's going to be a cover band,
other? Okay,
but
okay,
it's going to be more of a variety band, kind of like what it was with the Rhythm Benders. A little
yes,
bit different flair,
okay,
different songs, but still kind of similar genres. We'll do a little, like Kelly Clarkson and um, you know, um, gosh. We'll do some rock songs, but a couple of country songs. Not a whole lot of country, but
right.
there's a lot of songs that. Gosh, I'm having trouble remembering the set list now,
Oh, that's all right.
uh,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Yeah.
it's going to be more of a variety band than anything.
Oh, all right. Cool. Cool. The last story that I want to cover with you is you had a benefit concert for Ava and Jules, which is
Yes,
uh, two individuals with, I think you said Down syndrome. Okay.
correct.
And the concert is called Rockin' for College, and
Yes.
that was postponed due to the hurricane, not Milton, the other one, whatever that name was. I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I forget.
yeah, the who
One a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. But yeah. So the hurricane forced you to cancel the show, so you're going to reschedule in the near future, correct? I want you to tell everybody about that so they can help you out with that.
Okay, well, we were trying to reschedule, finding a venue because it was difficult because we um, we were supposed to be uh, playing at the Ice House Amphitheater, but they didn't have any dates other than the one that we had to cancel. They have no more dates left, so we reached out to the Township Auditorium and uh, just haven't really found a venue to take it to. And I assume with this news about Tara Lane,
Yeah,
uh, it's probably dead in the water now. But the thing is, the whole uh, benefit, the cause is still there.
yeah,
We're still taking donations. we missed out on the ticket sales side of it. But when we started planning it a few months ago, within a few weeks, we had gotten all of the vendors that we need, more vendors than we needed. We'd gotten, excuse me, we'd gotten all of the sponsors that we needed, including Walgreens being our title sponsor,
Nice.
and we had everything set up and ready to go. And as of uh, Thursday, that Thursday, we were going to go. We were going to let the storm go through, and then we were going to have the concert. We,
Mm.
knew that the weather would be good that night, but the storm jogged to the right a little bit and hit us a little bit more than we had
Yeah.
hoped, and
Yeah.
power was out. People had trouble with a few trees and limbs down, and
Yeah.
didn't
Cause
have it
my
as bad as Aiken did.
yeah, cause my power was out for like 17 hours or something. It was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but we could have forced it, but it wouldn't have been good, and probably we wouldn't have gotten anything off of the tickets. But um, we are still taking donations
Okay.
for this, and it's USC Aiken has um, an arm called USCA Life, and they are the organization that was heading this up. And while this was for Ava and Jules to go to college, their
All right.
scholarship, and it's a very special program. Um, WIS did several spots on the news about this and about those two girls, and then it got some exposure with Fox and Friends. I think Rachel Campos Duff, Duffy or whatever her name
Yeah.
is had it on Fox and Friends one morning, and so it got a lot of exposure. And we think that the concert would have been really good, and we would
Yeah.
have had a good response with ticket sales. So we missed out on that part, but we still got a lot of donations, and we still got a lot of um, um, sponsors and things like that. And not, all of the sponsors, none of them took their money back. It was,
Oh, great.
it
That's
was, it
always
was, yeah. So we came out on the positive side of it,
yeah.
but we did miss out on the ticket sales.
Okay. Now, is there anywhere that our listeners can go to, like a website to donate?
Yes, USCA Life. I believe it's .org or .edu. I'd have to check
Okay.
that, but
Yeah.
uh, you can talk to USCA Life, or you can look at uh, let's see. I don't know if Tara Lane's website or Facebook page is still up. One
Okay.
of the other bands that was going to be involved is called uh, uh, 3 Mile Railroad,
Yeah.
and you can go look at their Facebook page, and they still have the uh, uh, the connection, the hyperlink, so that you can get to the
Okay.
site to make donations. So
Okay.
you can look for 3 Mile Railroad on Facebook. You can look for Tara Lane on Facebook, and you can also look at USCA Life on Facebook.
Okay. Well, if you can send me all those links, the links to stuff, I'll be more than happy to share that on our Facebook page too to help you
Thank you.
out. Yeah, because I think this is a good thing. I do know that I will want to be there when you all perform.
Yeah.
Because I haven't been out in like months, with the music. Because I think the last concert I've been to was June or July or something. I need to get back out there and go to live shows. But so yeah. Okay, so we do have two more questions for you,
Okay.
and I think you know what one of them is, but because we talked about it before, but I'm sure it's going to change today as opposed to the other day. Four bands. If I ask you to give me your Mount Rushmore of four bands, artists, or albums, which would it
Wow.
be? Yeah,
Wow. Wow. That's uh,
that's hard.
that's hard. Yes.
Yeah, because mine changes like minute to minute.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But I would say, gosh, I would say that uh, Kansas Leftover Tour would be one. Uh, Moving Pictures by Rush. Um, let's see. Journey. Um, Trying to remember the name of the album.
Yeah.
Uh, Gosh, they had so many of them, but it was, if I remember right, it was their breakout album with the Na Na song.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember Departure, I think it was.
Okay.
Uh, and so Journey was a big one, and Styx, Grand Illusion. Okay,
Great.
so Styx, the Grand Illusion album was the that was the first concert I ever went to. I was probably 16 years old, and it was called the Grand Decathlon Tour, and it was right after Grand Illusion came out. Then I went and saw him two more times. Up to Kilroy Was Here, and it's like the Kilroy stuff was really bad. Then they got rid of Dennis DeYoung and all that. But anyway, Styx
Yeah.
was really big, and also, gosh, Van Halen,
Yeah.
Foghat, all those guys. Yeah, so it's hard to
Yeah,
narrow it down.
it's hard. It's so hard, yeah, because Van Halen has some great albums with us. Like, okay, so so we're out of subject. Did you like Van Hagar more or Van Halen more?
I
Which?
was more of I was more of a Van Halen,
Okay,
and I had a roommate in college who was more of the Van Hagar, and
yeah,
so we kind of we played both, but um, I like Sammy Hagar and
yeah,
everything. I think that Eddie Van Halen had much better edge on the guitar back in the day when they were just getting started.
yeah.
And I actually saw them. I went to a Monsters of Rock at the
Nice.
Liberty Bowl in Memphis.
Yeah,
Liberty Bowl sat 70,000. So um, we were on the field, about the 20-yard line, looking at the stage, and I saw Survivor when they had that first song, "Eye of the Tiger," that
yeah,
got used in the Rocky song.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They got popular for that, so they were the opening act. Then it was Joan Jett and Blackhearts. Then it was Kansas. Now, this was the version of Kansas after Steve Walsh left, the singer, and John Elefante was singing, but still, it was a great band, a
right,
great show.
yeah.
And then Van Halen. And so that was a monster show.
Talk about banger after banger after banger.
Yeah.
Such pivotal bands, and it's like getting better every time you waited.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So all right.
Yeah.
One more question, and this is gonna be harder than the four pillars. Um, okay, so one song, artist, or album that you can think of right now that if you listen to it, you can't tell me, your daughter, or your wife how it makes you feel deep inside your soul.
I can't now say I can't do what now?
Okay, so when you listen to any song, artist, or album, one
Yeah.
one thing, when you hear it, you can't tell how it makes you feel deep inside. It's so like in you. You can't
Oh,
express the way it makes you feel.
can't really describe it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's so inborn in you.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I I would say, if you're looking for something that really influenced me as a person, I would say "Angry Young Man" by Styx. That was one that I was just becoming a man, and I was trying to learn to deal with emotions and hormones and the whole nine yards. Just
Yeah.
late teenager, early 20s, that kind of thing. And that song stuck with me from being a teenager all the way through, um, uh, 20 something or 30. The messaging and the mix of the music, the musicianship, and the message, it really clicked for me. I would say that was one that really influenced me.
Yeah.
uh, but then if you're you know slightly more embarrassing, I'm a very sentimental guy, and my ex-wife and my daughter used to laugh at me because I couldn't watch um, Still Magnolias, the movie with Sally Field and Julia
Yeah.
Roberts and everything. And because of that one scene where Sally Field loses her daughter and she's in uh, the graveyard, and they're talking to her, and she just loses it. And when she loses it, I have to get out of the room.
Yeah.
I'm just going to fall, you know.
Yeah.
And they used to laugh at me about that. But the one song that could always do that, you know, bring that kind of same response
Yeah.
was the Louis Armstrong song. I see I see leaves of green.
That's what a wonderful
What a
world.
wonderful
Yeah.
world. Thank you.
Yeah.
When I hear
Yeah.
that song,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
So
I can agree.
that one
Yeah.
really touches me, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a very powerful song for anybody to hear,
yeah,
because it
yeah.
is a wonderful world, And so, I mean, yeah, if
But
you look up,
if you listen to the words, it really just, you know, it can break your heart, you
yeah,
know.
and it captures everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right. Thank you, sir, for coming on, and we love you. Maybe let's plan to go somewhere and get something to eat. You, me, and Sean, and just hang out. Because you're in
Let's do
Lexington,
that.
I'm in Lexington, so it's all it makes sense. So, right.
Let's do that. That'd be
Yes.
great. And thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. And before we leave, where can my listeners come to you? I mean, because I know you have a Facebook page. You're on the Palmetto Sun Band now. So I mean, or where can people reach out to you?
Okay, so my you can find me at uh, David Ruff. I don't know the actual address, but
Okay, yeah,
Facebook,
yeah.
David Ruff at Facebook, and you can see
I,
my company website and get in touch with me that way. Athleticgraphics.com.
all right.
That's my company site, but probably the best way to find out my activities is Facebook, David
Okay.
Ruff at Facebook,
Okay.
and
And
you'll see the Terra Lane stuff still up on it right
yes,
now.
yes, yes. And for everybody else, I'm going to link these descriptions in the bottom of the episode, so everybody can go to it with a click. So
Good,
I honestly do thank you, and I hope to hang out with you real soon. You, me, and Sean. Sean's a
that'd be
great guy.
great.
Yeah, Sean's a great guy. Um, yeah. So thank you so much for talking about music with me, and I hope to God you come back anytime you want to. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. For everybody listening, always remember when words fail, music speaks. Bye, guys.